Alright everybody, this is Miss Johnston, ready for the Unit 1 vocabulary words. So, this is what your homework is going to look like. You can print it off the website, or if you feel like just writing it on paper, that's totally fine. You're going to just want to make sure you have all of the categories. So the first thing here is the part of speech, so that's going to go in this little box here. Then we have the word itself, goes in that box. The definition in your own words. You can try to capture as much of the definition as you can in your own words here. Put a synonym in this box, and then in the last box on the right, you're going to put the connotation, which is either positive or negative, and you're also going to want to choose something that could be a good example of what you would associate this word with. Then this long box underneath is for you to write your own sentence. So don't forget to do that part. You will not receive full credit. Make sure you do that sentence in that long box. So you'll do that for every word. So make sure you don't use my sentences, do your own. You can certainly change the form of the word if you wish, like you would see fascism. If you want to change it to fascist, that's fine. You can of course change tense as well. If there are no synonyms on the slide, you can put an X in the box for that word. There's a lot of nouns in this unit, so there's not always synonyms for those. First word is anarchy, or also anarchist. Definition is a state of disorder due to absence of authority, absence of government, and absolute freedom of the individual. An anarchist would see this as the political ideal. Some synonyms are lawlessness, chaos, and mayhem. Conditions were dangerously ripe for anarchy, and everyone knew the country was on the cusp of chaos. Alright, number 2 is armistice, which is a noun. The definition for armistice is an agreement made by opposing sides in a war to stop fighting for a certain time. Some synonyms are truce, ceasefire, and peace. The armistice was declared on November 11th, 1918, between the Allies and Germany to end the fighting on the Western Front. Number 3 is assimilate, which is a verb. The definition is to take in information, ideas, or culture, and understand fully. Absorb and integrate people, ideas, or culture into a wider society or culture. Some synonyms are integrate, blend in, and incorporate. Pop trends are assimilated into the mainstream with alarming speed. You can also think of assimilate, obviously when immigrants come to a new country, they would need to assimilate to that new culture. There's also even the idea if you have a new student at a high school, they would have to assimilate to the culture of the high school. Number 4 is avant-garde. This can be used as a noun and an adjective. So for definition, for the noun, it is something that is new and unusual, or experimental, as far as the idea that is kind of being laid down, especially in the arts. That's where you normally hear this word. Adjective would be favoring or introducing experimental or unusual ideas. So we have 2 samples. Works by artists of the Russian avant-garde often had negative commentary about the state of the government. That's used as a noun. And then we can use it as an adjective, like the second sentence. A controversial avant-garde composer worked in a time signature combination that no one had ever used before. So you can also think of it, even Frank Ocean's most recent album, Blonde, is a very avant-garde album. It's really experimental. Is very different for something that I guess could be considered R&B, but it's very experimental and definitely pretty unique, so that could be considered an avant-garde album that he created. Some synonyms for the adjective version are innovative and original. Next, we have 2 different words that are rooted in the same. Number 5, we have bourgeois as an adjective and bourgeoisie as a noun. For bourgeois as an adjective, this is characteristic of the middle class's materialistic values or conventional attitudes. Kate's bourgeois ideas led her to think she was better than most people. This is, if you haven't guessed already, where the slang word bougie comes from. So you can certainly associate that with the idea of being bourgeois. Synonyms for the adjective, though, are middle class and propertied. So really, when you talk about things that are bourgeois, you're referring to middle class kind of ideals. For bourgeoisie, you're just referring directly to the middle class, and the bourgeoisie and the proletariat are often discussed together. So proletariat is going to be another word of yours later in the list. Number 6 is exile, which is a noun. Definition for exile is the state or period of forced absence from one's country or home. Synonyms are banishment, deportation, and expatriation. If expatriation is a new word for you, you can kind of see that it is, the root of it is patriot. So if you think of a patriot of their country, if they are an expatriate, then they are no longer in their country, which as a noun would be the form of expatriation. So Marjane Satrapi has lived in exile since the Islamic Revolution and currently resides in Paris. Number 7, fascism is a noun. Definition is a way of organizing a society in which a government ruled by a dictator controls the lives of the people and in which people are not allowed to disagree with the government. Some synonyms, or just a synonym actually, is absolute control. Mussolini ensured a regime of fascism in Italy during World War II. Number 8 is fatalism, which is a noun. This is a word that you had seen in the introduction to Persepolis. The definition is the belief that what will happen has already been decided and cannot be changed. A synonym is fate, well, sort of, because you can see with fatalism that there's the root there as is fate, but at the same time, it's kind of used in different ways than fate. So that's why I say sort of. But you still get the idea, because fate, also the belief that what is going to happen has already been decided. For the sentence, we have many people have developed a sense of fatalism about the war. So they would have a sense that the outcome of the war is already kind of set in motion and it can't be changed. Number 9 is fundamentalist, another noun and another word from the introduction to Persepolis. Definition is one who has an attitude stressing strict and literal adherence to a set of basic principles. Fundamentalism with a capital F refers to a movement in the 20th century, Protestantism, that emphasizes the literal interpretation of the Bible. So if you ever see it with a capital F, it's probably just really referring to that movement, but it is used in a lot of ways when anybody of any sort of belief system is following it to a T. So, for our sentence, terrorists often publicly admit to being a fundamentalist in regards to their religious practices. Number 10, imperialism is a noun. This is a word that's going to come up a lot more in our second marking period unit on Africa and African writers. So kind of keep that in mind, but we might as well get that out of the way now. Definition for imperialism is a policy or practice by which a country increases its power by gaining control over other areas of the world, often changing or influencing the way people live in other, poorer countries. British imperialism created the enormous British Empire, which is why we see so much British influence across the entire globe. Number 11 is oppress, which is a verb. Definition for oppress is to crush or burden, often spiritually or mentally, by abuse of power or authority. Some synonyms are burden, weigh down. The country has long been oppressed by a ruthless dictator. Number 12 is prophet, which is a noun. I know a lot of you guys have asked me about this one. Figured this is a good one to add to our list. Definition of a prophet is one who utters divinely inspired revelations, one gifted with more than ordinary spiritual and moral insight, and one who perhaps can foretell future events. So some synonyms are diviner and foreseer. We have a sample sentence. The queen was disturbed by the prophet's interpretation of her dreams. Number 13 is proletariat, which is a noun, a word you already knew was coming. Definition is the laboring class, or the lowest class of a community. Synonym is the industrial class. So you can think of it as a synonym because if somebody lacks a means of production, then they have to sell their labor for money. In other words, they sort of become a part of the industry. They have no other way to make any money. So a sample sentence, the Bolsheviks believed that Russia's discontented proletariat made that nation ripe for the revolution. So bourgeoisie and proletariat, they are both nouns. They are often discussed together, as I already said. Bourgeoisie will refer to the middle class, and proletariat will refer to the lower class. Number 14 is regime, which is a noun. You hear this word a lot. Definition is pretty simple, a mode of rule or management. Synonyms are administration, authority, and governance. Under the new regime, all workers must file a weekly report. So that's really just a pretty everyday example. Just like the next sentence, he was put on a strict exercise regime. So we use this word in our everyday language pretty often, but it also often refers to people who have power or any sort of political stance. They have a certain set of rules or management that would be their regime. Number 15 is renounce, which is a verb. Definition is to formally give up something, to say in a definitive way that you refuse to follow, obey, or support someone or something any longer. Some synonyms are give up, relinquish, and abstain from. Edward renounced his claim to the throne, or to give you something that's a little more current and relevant to our country right now, many Americans are renouncing their right to vote in this year's election because they are extremely unhappy with the candidates on both political platforms. Number 16 is repressive, which is an adjective. The definition is especially going to refer to a social or political system that inhibits or restrains the freedom of a person or groups of people. Synonym is authoritarian. Sample sentence: the repressive regime did not allow women the freedom to wear what they chose. Oh snap, there are 2 vocab words in that sentence. Number 17 is secular, which is an adjective. Definition is denoting attitudes, activities, or other things that have no religious or spiritual basis. Synonym, non-religious. Because of the separation of church and state in the United States, many schools must ensure that all activities are secular. Number 18 is shun, which is a verb. The definition is to persistently avoid, ignore, or reject someone or something with antipathy, which is also like a deep-seated dislike, or caution. Synonym, avoid and evade. The teenage boy shunned fashionable society, so he typically wore jeans and a black t-shirt. Number 19 is tyranny, which is a noun. Definition is cruel and oppressive government or rule. Tina felt as though her mother's tyranny had gone too far when her cell phone was cut off. Number 20 is vendetta, which is a noun. Obviously, you guys have heard me say this word a couple of times. It's going to be in our title of our next graphic novel. So the definition for vendetta is a prolonged bitter quarrel with or campaign against someone. So good synonyms are argument and dispute. He has accused the British media of pursuing a vendetta against him. So I hope you guys all got all of your vocab words down, and if you need to see me at all during charger time, make sure you come on by before homework is due or before the quiz happens. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.